Hey guys, DJ here at Top Tick Cards and Games, and today I'm going to do a Blue Eyes deck profile for you guys. This deck is sort of new. I mean, it got finished with the structure decks that just came out a little bit ago, and the new pot is a good addition to it, though I'm not playing them in this list. But we'll just get into the list and we'll talk about some of the choices and some of the other options you guys have. First off, we have 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. Probably the weakest card in the deck, in all honesty, but it's an enabler for a lot of different things. You need them. It's a searchable target for a lot of cards. So we went with the full 3 copies of them. This art's okay. I mean, you get more style points for having DDS ones. I have these nice retro pack ones. They're cool, but not as cool. 2 Blue Eyes Alternative Dragon. This guy's a 2-of because you can only use him once per turn, and he's super searchable with Melody. He also doesn't count for cards that specifically work for Blue Eyes White Dragon when he's in your deck, so we went with 2 copies. And 1 Blue Eyes Spirit, whatever this guy's name actually is. I don't know what it is. You guys tell me down below. Just 1. It's pretty okay. I mean, there's some aspects where it's a really strong card. Being able to remove your opponent's back rows and the tag effect is decent. A lot of the times it's just a small Blue Eyes that doesn't really do what you need it to. It doesn't count as Blue Eyes White Dragon for cards that specifically get Blue Eyes. Like I said, it's a little bit small, and the banish spell or trap effect isn't insanely relevant. We're able to do things like just play 1-ofs of cards like this because we're not playing pot. I don't necessarily think that that's correct, but there were a lot of neat interactions that I liked in my deck. So when I started putting pots in, I realized that I just had to build a totally different build of the deck. So if you guys are interested in one incorporating Pot of Desires, I'm not sure if that's better or worse. I can do a separate video. Let me know down below if you're interested in that, because I don't want to blow the channel up with a bunch of Blue Eyes videos if people don't actually give a crap. But yeah, so we have one of this guy, and that's all our Blue Eyes White Dragons. We get into our tuners here. We have 3 Sage with Eyes of Blue. And this card is just the Stone Cold Nuts. It searches up card of Consonance targets. It has the effect to pitch itself from your hand to turn one of your effect monsters in play into a Blue Eyes. It can search out Effect Veiler. It just does everything you could possibly ask it to, and it searches Maiden for a cute combo we have in the deck. Then we have 2 copies of White Stone of Ancients and 1 copy of White Stone of Legends. You don't need to overload on stones. You don't have that many cards in your deck that want to just dump them from your deck to the bin, and you only have 2 copies of Cards of Consonance in this list. Part of that reasoning was that 3 Consonants clog, but they also force you to play more tuners, which also clog. You want to have enough tuners to pitch for your consonants that you draw and to summon in synchro, and overloading on them just really causes more harm than good. This separation is chosen because there's situations where both are better. I don't expect to ever need to resolve 3 Ancient Stone effects in one game, so I don't see a reason to go to 3 of these. If I wanted another one, I would probably play a 2nd copy of Legends. But the variety is necessary for when you're pitching with like Dragon's Ravine or something. Whatever effect is better. 1 copy of Corsica searches with Ravine to either synchro with or pitch for consonants. Then we have 1 Maiden with Eyes of Blue. Maiden is key for a play with Mausoleum of White that's in the deck, as well as combinations with Sage. If you pitch Sage, you get an instant rank 8 with you add this guy, and the Mausoleum play I'll go over when we get there, but it makes her level 9 synchro. And occasionally leave something for you to play with. So a lot of neat plays with that. I'll talk about more in a minute. We have 1 copy of Effect Veiler. It's our last tuner in the deck, but it's mostly just a tutorable disruption piece. It's basically the only piece of disruption in the deck. It's searchable though, so it doesn't detract too much. It is a brick when you're going off, but I mean it's at worst like a level 1 tuner, so has that upside. And then finally we have Arcbrave Dragon and Amorphage Goliath. I think in the current meta, these guys are still good. Right now you see a lot of EDM, Burning Abyss, those kind of decks. This guy's just so good, especially against BA, where I'm very happy to have him in my deck. It's such a good combo to go Dark Matter, dump both these guys in a stone of your choice, and then bring Goliath back in your opponent's standby phase. Cut them out of their extra deck, so it was worth playing. These are some of the things, like these cards, like the 1 of Maiden, the 1 of Corsica. Like these are cards that get much worse if you have Pot of Desires in your deck, because you can't play these techie 1-ofs and like you'll draw 1/2 of the combo and just be screwed. Or like you'll draw Ravine and need to pitch to search Corsica. You won't know Corsica's not in your deck. You'll draw Mausoleum without Maiden, which isn't the end of the world, but it's much worse. Maiden's okay on its own, but I mean like even if you mill 1 of these guys and remove it, so you only have the other one left in your deck, you can't do that play anymore with your Dark Matter. So it just forces you to really change how you build your deck and reevaluate it. And I was pretty happy with how this list had been working, so I wanted to talk about it first. Then we have 3 copies of Melody, just because we want to set up alternative plays. This is better than like more copies of Blue Eyes, for instance, because 1, it thins your deck, 2, it sets up the alternative play automatically. It also just fuels your trade-ins really well, which we have 3 copies of. We're playing 3 trade-ins because it's much easier to get live with the searching from Melody, the adding back from your stone, the searching from the other stone. So it's just easier to resolve trade-in than it is to resolve consonants, which we're playing 2 copies of. I already touched on this a little bit, but we do only have 2 copies of consonants because it's just easier to get the right number of tuners and you have less dead cards of consonants in your hand. Perhaps there's a way I could juggle my numbers a little bit and maybe get it better, but I mean, this is largely intuition, not really any math to back me up on it. This has just felt best. We have 3 copies of Return of the Dragon Lords. This is the card that really made the deck work that didn't exist previously. It's why the starter decks were key to the deck existing. So it's just such a strong card. It's a monster reborn for your Blue Eyes, basically, and it also gives you protection when it's in your bin. You can just remove it to keep, like, you know, any of your Blue Eyes guys or a Morphage Goliath alive. So that's pretty key. We have 2 more reborn cards in the form of Silver Scry. I didn't want to play 3 Silver Scry, partially because I felt that I had enough reborn effects. I didn't really feel like I needed to give myself any more access to plays in that way. Drawing multiples of this isn't that bad, even though it's once per turn, because you can use 1 on your opponent's turn as well. Perhaps playing another copy of Spirit gives that even more value, since you can reborn Spirits on your opponent's turn. Uses like a quick play. Well, I mean, MST is a quick play, but uses an MST on their turn. So maybe that's something to consider if you wanted to play more copies of Spirit. You could easily justify the extra Silver Scry's defensive card a little bit more. But I was more interested in just making plays happen. We also have 3 copies of Terraforming. Not much to say about that yet. With 2 Dragon's Ravine. I like Ravine a lot. I wanted to play Ravine more than I wanted to play Dragon Shrine anyway, so that made the choice a little bit easier to play Terraforming. I was like already playing like this mixture before I put Mausoleum of White in my deck. So it was a pretty easy like slam dunk to just max on Terraformings at that point and get myself access to Mausoleum as well. So what Mausoleum does with Maiden is if you have Maiden in play in Mausoleum, you can use Mausoleum effect, dump a Blue Eyes or whatever, targets Maiden, so you get to special summon a Blue Eyes. So we can make a rank 9 or a level 9 Synchro right there. Additionally, if your play was actually like summon Sage, play Mausoleum, so you get Sage, you get to use an extra summon on this guy, you know, effect, you end up with a Blue Eyes in play. You can kind of, if this is like a beneficial play in any way to you, you can go into Blue Eye Spirit, walk you guys through it. You can go into Blue Eye Spirit, level this guy down into whatever level 7 might be beneficial to you at the time. Maybe search a Ravine to make a play, pop one of your opponent's cards, bounce a card, something like that, and then go up into a level 8, which would be Crystal Wing. So that's a pretty beneficial play in some situations. It's just good to have access to. You only have to play 1 copy of this card, and it already can do extremely good things for your deck by being a double summon for tuners, letting you go into multiple level 9 Synchros in 1 turn. Then we have Upstart Goblin, Soul Charge, which is just totally unfair in this deck. There are actually a lot of situations, I didn't realize my map was shifting around, geez. A lot of situations where you draw this card going second and like, you can't, like it's not like you're cut off from playing it, but you're in an awkward situation since you can't go to combat. So you have to just kind of force your opponent's board out with it. And then we have 2 copies of Twin Twister. This build is made to go second exclusively, so we're not playing Vanity's Emptiness or Wing Blast or anything. We just have our Twin Twisters to plow through our opponent's back rows and then go to clear their board. Normally you're not actually going to kill them, you're just going to clear their board out and then set up with like the Goliath or, you know, various extra deck monsters. Let's talk about the extra deck a little bit now. I don't think my extra deck is totally perfect. There's 1 card specific that's missing, that's Heliopolis. I think I know how I'm going to fit him in, but right now I've been pretty happy with all the cards, but I think I'll show you guys. We'll go through it. I have 2 Blue Eye Spirit Dragons. This guy could debatably be a 3 of. He's just been so good, but you don't normally, you know, make 3 of them in a game even when you use the extra copy. But his ability to kind of shut off a lot of different plays your opponents can make, either pendulum summoning or graveyard effects, is just so good, and then it turns into Azure Eyes almost every time. I'm playing 2 Azure Eyes right now. This has come up for me a number of times where I've like made a Spirit and an Azure Eyes, like just Synchro summon them both turn 1, and that's why I'm playing 2 copies of Azure Eyes. But in a lot of games, like you won't use the second Azure Eyes, you just make 1, like you get Spirit and then summon Azure Eyes with it. You don't normally make a Spirit or make an Azure Eyes and special an Azure Eyes. But it's come up for me a large enough portion of the time that I chose to keep 2. Unless I pick some other card to cut, I'm probably going to try going down to one of these for Heliopolis, just to give myself more access to cards that can clear my opponent's back rows and stuff. Then we have our package of guys that we can level our spirit into other than Azure Eyes. We have Ancient Fairy Dragon, Black Rose Moonlight, and Michael. Just a variety of different effects. Ancient Fairy lets us either take our opponent's field spell and get our own, or we can swap our Mausoleum into a Ravine, or even the other way around if we need to. Moonlight's a pretty good defensive card, stopping your opponent's plays a little bit, bouncing a monster. Just a lot of applications, and same with Michael. You just summon it, get rid of something that's a problem on the board. And then we have Crystal Wing to go into with those level 7s, because this card is just disgustingly good. I don't see any time in the near future where this card won't be disgustingly good. We also have Gigantic Castle. This is an awkward inclusion if you guys aren't super familiar with this deck or anything, but the Blue Eyes deck has a lot of trouble getting over the 3,000 defense barrier, basically. So in the mirror, if your opponent goes into like an Azure Eyes and makes Spirit into Azure Eyes, it's very hard to actually kill this guy, and your opponent gets basically like to free roll a turn unless you play Gigantic Castle, so you just make a level 9 Synchro and run it over. This is actually like a decent card investment that your opponent put into it, so you're actually getting a lot of value from just smashing over it. Onto the Exceeds, we have Harbinger. This card's broken. I'll say is actually really good in the deck, being able to set up a lot of different removal plays, just useful card. We have Dragulon. I didn't like Dragulon before because I didn't think a lot of people were playing Blue Eyes, and honestly they still aren't yet right now, but I did choose to put it in because the deck's kind of on the upswing a little bit. I think with Pot, a lot of people will be copying the Japanese builds that play Pot, and we'll see a lot more of the deck. And this card's very good in those matchups, so definitely worth playing. This could also be the Heliopolis if you don't think many people are going to play Blue Eyes. I think that would be a decision I would wait like a week or two on, see how the meta shapes out. But I would guess Blue Eyes will be somewhat more represented than it was in the past, so you'll want to consider this guy. Then I have my Dark Matter package. I'm using Tachyon Dragon. Most people play Prime Photon, and I actually don't know why. There's very few situations that exist in the game where the extra attack on Prime Photon matters, like to a point where I couldn't just summon Full Armor and deal with it, and past that I can just summon Dark Matter and deal with it. I found a lot more situations where I get sick value out of just activating Tachyon Dragon to negate the board and then climbing up. So I went with this guy instead of Prime Photon. And just this engine is actually just disgustingly good. So I'm glad to make use of it. So there's the deck list. Like I said, I can do another video if you guys are interested where I play Pots in the deck. I think Pot's very good, but I don't necessarily think that it's good in this list. You have to streamline your deck a lot more, play more copies of cards, less cheeky one-ofs. Or at the very least, you have to make sure your deck is based less around those cheeky one-ofs, and I think my deck is built to utilize them a lot more than a lot of other people's lists would be. So I think it's it's still a Blue Eyes deck, but I think it's a very different looking deck list, though it will be built to accomplish a lot of the same things. Drawing extra cards is so good that I'm sure a Pot of Desire list is good. I just was very happy with how this list had performed, so I thought I would just do a video with it. Other than that, if you guys have any questions or comments, ideas for your own Blue Eyes list, let me know down below. I'd be more than happy to check them out and talk to you guys about it. If you guys, I know Dark Magician is going to be requested a bunch, and I'll work on it. I don't really know what the cards do yet. I read the Magic Circle card, and that's just disgusting, so I have some hope for the deck. I just got to kind of figure some more cards out for it and how it works. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, let me know down below. Thanks a ton for watching. I'll see you guys soon.